For 6 decades, if something heavy moved in Britain, a Bedford truck moved it. They survived the Blitz, powered a post-war empire, and pumped out an astonishing 100,000 vehicles a year. They didn't just dominate the British transport market, they were the market. But by 1990, the massive factories went completely silent. The legendary brand was wiped off the map almost overnight. How does an untouchable industrial titan just cease to exist? The collapse of Bedford wasn't a slow death by bad engineering. The real story involves a massive American corporate giant, a ruthless political betrayal at the highest levels of government, and a fatal miscalculation that doomed an entire national industry. This is the story of Britain's greatest lorry giant, and the shocking backdoor deal that killed it. In 1925, GM purchased Vauxhall Motors to build a proper British operation. However, truck assembly wouldn't fully transfer to Vauxhall's headquarters in Luton, Bedfordshire, until 1929. Initially, these vehicles were simply rebadged Chevrolets sold as British Chevrolet trucks, but GM had bigger ambitions for their British operation. The Bedford name first appeared in April 1931, taking its name from the county town of Bedfordshire, where Luton was located. The first true Bedford was the WHG, a 2-ton lorry that looked almost identical to its Chevrolet predecessor, apart from a redesigned radiator grille. It was available with 2 wheelbase options and powered by Chevrolet's advanced overhead valve 6-cylinder engine, known internally as the Stovebolt 6. This engine was Bedford's secret weapon. While British competitors like Leyland and Carrier were still using older side valve engines, Bedford offered smooth-running, reliable power that was years ahead of its time. The Stovebolt 6 would form the backbone of Bedford engines for the next 50 years, giving them a crucial advantage in performance and fuel economy. Throughout the 1930s, Bedford steadily expanded their range. The company introduced the 30 hundredweight WS model in 1932, followed by the 3-ton WT series in 1933. Sales grew steadily as British hauliers discovered that these American-designed trucks offered better reliability and performance than their traditional British alternatives. But it was the outbreak of World War II that truly transformed Bedford from a regional player into a household name. The British War Office had been working with Bedford since 1935 to develop a 1,500-weight military truck. This became the Bedford MW, which entered service in 1939. By the war's end, over 65,000 MW trucks had been built. The war years saw Bedford's engineering prowess reach new heights. The company developed the revolutionary Bedford QL, nicknamed the Queen Lizzie, which entered service in 1941. This 4-wheel drive forward control lorry was a radical departure from Bedford's previous designs, featuring innovative engineering that would influence truck design for decades. Production of the QL ran at around 12,000 units per year between 1942 and 1944. These trucks served in every conceivable role, from artillery tractors to wireless vehicles, fuel tankers to troop carriers. Bedford even supplied thousands of trucks to the Soviet Union under the Lend-Lease program. The war also forced Bedford to diversify beyond trucks. At their Luton plant, the company manufactured Churchill tanks, producing over 5,000 units along with 2,000 spare engines. They also produced steel helmets, rocket components, and critical parts for Frank Whittle's top-secret jet engine development. This wartime production boom led to the opening of a massive new facility in Dunstable in 1942. The Dunstable plant would become the heart of Bedford's post-war truck production, eventually employing over 5,000 people on wages averaging £10 per week. When peace returned in 1945, Bedford was perfectly positioned to capitalise on Britain's post-war reconstruction boom. The company resumed production of their civilian truck ranges while continuing to serve military contracts worldwide. Many surplus military Bedfords were snapped up by civilian operators, spreading the brand's reputation even further. The 1950s marked Bedford's golden age. In 1950, the company launched the Bedford S-Type, known as the Big Bedford, which became their largest civilian truck with a gross weight of 7 tons. This was followed by the incredibly successful Bedford TK in 1960, which would become the quintessential British light truck for the next 2 decades. The TK was available with both petrol and diesel engines and could be configured as a rigid truck or light tractor unit. Its simple, robust design made it perfect for British operating conditions, and it found widespread use with major fleets including British Rail's Transport Division and the General Post Office, where a specialised version for installing telegraph poles was known as the Pole King. By the mid-1960s, Bedford was producing trucks in staggering numbers. In 1960, annual production exceeded 100,000 units, making Bedford one of the largest truck manufacturers in Europe. The company exported vehicles to every continent, with assembly plants in countries from Argentina to Nigeria. Bedford's military vehicles were equally successful. The Bedford RL became the British Army's standard medium lorry from the 1950s through the 70s. Over 74,000 RLs were produced, serving not only British forces but Commonwealth armies worldwide. The famous Green Goddess fire engines, based on Bedford RL chassis, became icons of British emergency services. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, the TK and its variants remained the backbone of British commercial transport. The military version, known as the Bedford MK, was introduced in 1970 and proved incredibly successful, with over 50,000 produced. These four-wheel drive trucks would serve the British Army well into the 1990s, but even as Bedford celebrated record production figures, storm clouds were gathering on the horizon. European truck manufacturers like Volvo, Mercedes-Benz and MAN were developing increasingly sophisticated vehicles that made Bedford's designs look dated by comparison. The fuel crisis of the 1970s hit the truck market hard, and customers began demanding more fuel-efficient, technologically advanced vehicles. Bedford's market share peaked in 1976 and began a steady decline that would prove irreversible. The company's aging product line, based largely on designs from the 1960s, struggled to compete with modern European rivals. While Bedford trucks remained reliable and affordable, they lacked the sophisticated features that customers increasingly demanded. General Motors, watching from their Detroit headquarters, began to lose faith in their British truck operation. In 1980, Bedford sold 37,000 trucks. By 1984, that figure had collapsed to just 14,500. The new £8 million assembly line unveiled at Dunstable in 1980, designed to build the TL range replacement for the aging TK, was running far below capacity. The company had hoped to acquire Land Rover from British Leyland to create a formidable military and civilian four-wheel drive division, but the British government blocked the sale for political reasons in 1986. The implications were immediately clear to GM executives in Detroit. If they couldn't expand their operations in their home market due to government intervention, what future did the brand have? The writing was on the wall. GM made the painful decision to withdraw from the European heavy truck market entirely. In 1987, they announced the sale of Bedford's commercial vehicle division. The Dunstable plant and the heavy truck business were sold to AWD Limited, a company owned by David John Bowes Brown, who had previously designed articulated dump trucks for Caterpillar. AWD was only allowed to use the Bedford name for military vehicles, so civilian trucks were badged simply as AWD. The company continued production of the TL and TM ranges, but it was fighting a losing battle. The final blow came in 1989, when AWD failed to win the vital United Kingdom Ministry of Defence contract for a new 4-ton general service truck. Despite testing showing the AWD Bedford candidate was excellent, and the Army's preference for it, the contract went to the Leyland DAFT 244. Many saw this decision as purely political, designed to keep the struggling Leyland company afloat. By 1989 and 90, the United Kingdom commercial vehicle market had virtually collapsed. European manufacturers with lower costs were dominating sales. AWD denied this crucial military lifeline and, still relying on aging designs, couldn't compete on price or technology. In 1992, just 5 years after taking over the Bedford assets, AWD went into receivership. The company was acquired by dealer network Marshall of Cambridge, which continued limited production until 1997, primarily focusing on spare parts and specialised military orders. The last Bedford badged truck rolled off the production line in 1998, when Marshall completed an order for 100 trucks destined for Kenya. With that final shipment, the Bedford name disappeared forever from the commercial vehicle world, ending 67 years of continuous production. The Dunstable plant, which had once employed thousands of workers and produced trucks for the world, was demolished and redeveloped as a retail park. The iconic water tower that had dominated the skyline was torn down in 2005, erasing one of the last physical reminders of Bedford's industrial might. Today, the sites where Bedford trucks once rumbled off production lines house shopping centres and distribution warehouses. The company that had supplied trucks to armies, emergency services and commercial fleets worldwide exists only in the memories of those who worked there and the enthusiasts who still maintain ageing Bedford trucks in preservation. Bedford's story is ultimately one of technological stagnation in a rapidly evolving market. While companies like Volvo and Mercedes-Benz invested heavily in research and development, creating increasingly sophisticated trucks with advanced engines, transmissions and safety systems, Bedford continued refining designs that were essentially unchanged since the 1960s. The Bedford story serves as a cautionary tale for any company resting on past success. In the 1960s, Bedford seemed unassailable, with dominant market position, loyal customers, and a reputation for quality built over decades. Yet within a couple of decades, the company had vanished entirely, unable to adapt to changing market demands and intensifying competition. If you want to understand how quickly industrial giants can fall, remember Bedford. They ruled British roads for 60 years, then disappeared almost overnight, leaving behind only memories and a few surviving trucks to remind us of what once was the pride of British commercial vehicle manufacturing.